A lot of people were expecting Hoodlum to go out in this week's episode based on the preview in last week's episode. But the idea of both Hoodlum and Doctor going out simultaneously, because Hoodlum goes from being just a simple little guy who lies about everything, who just cheats his way, who blames himself for so much, who rises to the occasion to do the one thing he can before his demise, to take out the person who's responsible for his bro going out. The one who manipulated him at his weakest and was able to do the thing that she taught him to take her out as she simultaneously takes him out. This is a show where pretty much everyone other than Swindler is probably going to die, outside of obviously brother and sister, since they are seemingly immortal. But still, it doesn't change the fact that their deaths have weight, and it feels like ever since Brawler went out, everything has really changed in the show, from being just these are their initial personalities and here's their death, to his death really did kind of signal a change in development. It's quite fascinating because the idea of the Akudama, from what the world would tell you, is that they're very artificial, that they're very self-centered. But the idea of someone like Brawler, who you never really know, and we never will know since they're both now dead, did Brawler actually know Hoodlum was full of shit, or did Brawler fully believe Hoodlum was this crazy 500 million year prisoner? And I think the answer doesn't actually matter, because you can argue, well, he wasn't the brightest bulb in the batch, so he probably did believe it. Or you could say, oh, he didn't care because he just saw potential in the guy. Either way, it doesn't matter if Brawler actually saw Hoodlum for the lie or who he truly was. Because for whatever reason, this guy really did enjoy his company and he believed in him, and a part of me wants to believe that he knew it was a lie just because it wouldn't be so sweet that he saw like this guy as like potential insanity in the making and he wanted to take him under his wing. Because without a doubt, the time he spent, as short as it was with the Brawler, signaled this development that allowed him to get out of his shell. And it's weird because they're criminals and they're doing all these evil things, but it's still interesting to see how that bond really did shape Brawler and Hoodlum into being someone completely different than who they started out as. And to have Doctor, who pretty much is at the top of the food chain right now, because not only is she no longer labeled an Akudama, these executioners don't have the ability to label someone an Akudama. Only the actual high chief and things like that can. So for her, she can literally have them at literally her blade at their throat, and they can't do anything but obey her, because if they kill her, they'll be labeled an Akudama. We're seeing how twisted this system is. Literally anyone who goes against the status quo will be labeled an Akudama and will be killed by these robots or their executioners. It's pretty insane. It's brutal, but you can definitely tell that they rule with an iron fist, and anyone who goes against it will end up dead. I thought it was pretty interesting and fascinating to see the people rise up and really take action into their own hands. I thought, honestly, there was nothing they could do. Seemingly the top executioner was killed. What are they going to do? Well, you send out all the other executioners and all your machines to do your dirty work for you, and you basically destroy the entire city. And even if only 100 are left afterwards, those 100 are going to be very obedient and not go against you ever again. This is a very frightening system, and you can understand why these children programmings, which you do get a little bit after the credits there if you didn't see that, are so, like, probably taught to them at such a young age to make sure they never go against you and make sure you follow blindly and never doubt in the system. It's pretty frightening, all things considered. Honestly, up until this episode, I assumed the people really were just like, oh, it's a system that works, the Akudama are evil. But no, there probably has been other points in their history where similar things has happened, maybe not to the same scale and scope. But it's pretty frightening. They did a really good job at world building in this episode and really shaking down the foundation of what the executioners are. And the idea that anyone's an Akudama who goes against anything, it's just kind of frightening, all things considered. I mean, this episode, I was really curious what they were going to do, because for the first half or so, it was a fairly tame and peaceful episode. You're getting the kind of pain of someone like Hoodlum not wanting to be with Doctor, but he's the type of person who's always lied his way to stay alive, so this is the way he's doing. He's lying. He doesn't care what Doctor does. He's not scared, and he blames himself for not being good enough for someone like Brawler. But then as the episode gets going and you get this really nice winter scene where it starts snowing and you get different perspectives, from murder to bloodshed to simple just looking up at the sky wishing your brother was here, there were so many great, really heartfelt moments to build up to the final sequence where Brother, just every single time they get so close, he gets ripped away more. And the idea of having the previous apprentice to the executioner who was kind of like where this new guy is. He's scared shitless, not knowing what to do. And now having it be reversed and her being so gung-ho to kill these people who are responsible for her master's death, where the other guy is literally shitting in his pants, not knowing what to do or what to say. And you end up with a sequence where it felt very hopeless, because you know Swindler can't kill Doctor. Courier might be able to, but even then Courier wasn't doing too hot himself. Hoodlum was wrapped around her finger, the executioners can't do anything. What is the way that you can take care of her that it's not going to feel like an asshole? And as I was watching this, I was thinking, I was like, well, Hoodlum probably is going to try to kill her and will get killed, and that's probably how he'll end up dead. Maybe in doing so, that will give Courier an opportunity. The idea of all these people rushing to the train station, trampling all of them, giving her a brief moment of letting her guard down, to then Hoodlum stabbing her exactly where she taught him, and then her immediately reflexing to kill him. There's probably no better way. Someone who's always been above everyone else, who always has had everyone wrapped around her finger, gets trampled by the people she's always looked down upon, and Hoodlum, despite getting killed, goes out with feeling as if he lived up to Brawler, lived up to his bro, and that kind of build-up and that emotional talk that Swindler was able to give him, I think is really interesting, because there's a lot of lying that's went on. Courier's always known about the lying, but for her, like, she's ultimately became an Akudama by the city standards, and apparently anyone can be if you don't follow the rules. But it's interesting to see how these bonds are so weird, because they are all criminals and killers and things like that, but then you see the upper levels and management. It feels like the idea of good people in this city are pretty much just ordinary families, because there's not a lot of good that we've seen in this show. So it's the idea of what do you believe in and fight in, and for someone like Swindler, it's getting brother and sister back together, and everything else means jack shit. But someone like Hoodlum, while yes, she wanted to save her own life, she also realizes that there was a true bond there, and anyone who says otherwise is a piece of shit and a bitch, and you can't help but agree. It was a beautifully directed episode, it was emotionally engaging, and I really just continue to appreciate that the deaths in this series don't feel like they're just happening for shock factor. I can't say these two deaths were shocking in the way that it was meant to be like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. No, they were shocking in the sense that they serve such a great purpose in characterizing someone like Hoodlum, but bringing down someone who's so scummy and twisted and corrupted down to such a humiliating level that makes her death so painful, more than getting stabbed in the throat by the person that you taught how to do so. Incredible episode. The deaths continue to pile up, but it doesn't feel like the deaths are there for shock factor, and that's a really important distinction from a show that's very similar to it, that has a lot of kills and things like that. You see it all the time in anime, but honestly, Akudama Drive is showing others how to do it with grace. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think, and where do you think the final couple episodes are going to go? The trailer for next week's looking really interesting, and I have a feeling is setting up potentially Courier's death by the looks of the chance and the coin, but I guess only time will tell. If you enjoyed the video, of course, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.